Sabah everybody and welcome back to the channel. I'm really curious to see if this has ever happened to you, where it's starting to rain and you forgot to turn off your sprinkler and your lawn's being watered twice, from the sprinkler system as well as from the rain. Now, this happened to me a lot of times before, and one of my most dreaded things is keeping tabs on the weather and of course going outside and setting this up since my sprinkler system is outside. Today, I'm going to talk to you guys about a smart sprinkler system controller called Yardian Pro. Now, this enables us not only to manage our sprinkler system between 8 to 12 valves outside and of course on a device, being over Wi-Fi or even mobile data or even on your PC, but it's also smart enough to know that if it's going to rain tomorrow, if you set it up correctly, it actually skips watering, turns off the sprinkler system during that time, and it restarts again based on your parameters. This is TK, this is the Yardian Pro. Let's go ahead and check it out and why I feel like this is a very important piece of tech for any smart home, specifically if you want to be able to control your sprinkler systems. Let's check it out. Like and subscribe and make sure you hit that bell icon so that you're always notified to whenever we have new videos on the channel. So what I have in front of us is the Yardian Pro. There is two different models, one with 8 valves and one with 12 valves. The difference in price is about $20. So the 8 valves is $129 and the other one is going to be $149. And of course, both of them give you the exact same configuration. The only difference between the two is obviously the support of valves or the number of valves. And of course, they support watering systems. So basically water sensors if you actually have those additional sensors connected. One of the other upgrades that we have here with the Pro model is a better Wi-Fi connectivity option here, and we'll talk about that in a second. Of course, a full port and RJ45 connection, Ethernet on the back, as well as a much better setup with the 2 sensor input configuration. Lastly, when we look at the back of the box, you can see here 802.11b GNN, supports iOS and Android, and this one is intended for indoor use, although it will work outside with a specific kit that you can pick up directly from Yardian. Other than that, you can pretty much see all the information in here. And again, this is the Yardian Pro. There is another system called the Yardian, which includes a camera, and that was intended more for outdoors, and it's already pre-configured for that. This one is an indoor system, but again, if you buy the extra kit, you should be able to use it indoors or outdoors. As I mentioned to you guys in the beginning, there's two different models. There's one that supports 8 valves and one that supports up to 12. Depending on how complex your backyard is or your sprinkler system is, you should be able to find one that works for you the best. This also will work with the water sensors, basically the ability of adding 2 additional sensors. This system will support it. But as far as what you get in the box is pretty standard. Once you open up the package, you have basically the controller itself. It's right dead center. You do have to remove the front panel to be able to access where the actual connectors are, and they are quite easily labeled exactly which one it is, specifically for the ground wire, and of course the sensors and the different valves that you need to connect to it. From there, we'll notice that there's a power break as well as a power cable that you need to go through. And what I really like about it is they also include those little labels as well as the actual mounting screws to be able to mount this on your wall, in your backyard, or directly in your garage. As far as the setup process, it's actually advertised to be really easy and very simple. The main thing I would probably say is, first and foremost, take a picture of your existing system, meaning open up your panel and exactly see where the wires are connected. If you're not connecting any sensors, like the water sensors that they're offering, you're pretty much only going to be worried about basically the ground wire, and of course, each valve will have to connect to its own system. So the main benefit I would say is take your time, remove the old system, connect the new one, provide it power, and make sure that it's in a safe area that won't get any moisture. Again, this system without the, I would call it the outdoor kit, is not water resistant, so just be aware of that. If you're all going to connect an RJ45 cable, just connect it to the side as you have that. And of course, we have the built-in Wi-Fi in here, which is different than the last system with the Yardian, where you needed to have that USB dongle to provide Wi-Fi connectivity. So all in all, this took me less than 15 minutes and was very simple and very easy to use. Now, after we have it set up on the wall, we definitely need to configure the application and start getting everything configured right. Now, before we get into the actual application, I do want to share with you guys the main differences between the two systems. As you have in front of you right now, both the Yardian and the Yardian Pro support an 8 to 12 zone model. So there's 2 different models for each one. The biggest difference between the two is that the standard Yardian includes basically a camera that you're able to use for security purposes. And we'll get a chance to check that out in the application. Both include Wi-Fi, although the Wi-Fi on the Yardian Pro is definitely better since it's integrated and not used via USB. It also supports 2 sensors as opposed to the single sensor on the standard Yardian. And one of the other options, of course, here that we have is a full-size RJ45 on-site device button, so you can configure everything with buttons on the actual unit, and a reboot button that was built in here. With the old Yardian system, I had to actually unplug it and plug it back in. Again, overall, everything works great, but if you're going to use it outdoors, you do need to buy that kit. Now, using the app is pretty simple, available on both Android and iOS, as well as your web browser, so you're able to log into this from your PC. You can configure as many basically controllers as you'd like. I've used the Yardian Pro or the standard Yardian for over a year and a half, and that's why we have two of them. And I just added the Yardian Pro to my existing system. Now, in theory, what I did here is I replaced my Yardian front, TK front, with the Yardian Pro, so that's why this one won't work anymore. If I try to connect to it, it's just not going to give me access to the information. It says Yardian is offline. If the unit, once it's connected again, I'll be able to use it. Now, the Yardian Pro interface is very simple and very easy. First and foremost, when you pair it, it automatically tells you if it's there, if it's online, if it's active. If there's any issue, automatically gives you a warning right there at the top. You're able to configure your smart, basically your watering schedule, as well as the actual weather for your area, which is really helpful in case it actually does rain. So basically any issue where it's going to rain. So right there it says set skip rules. You can go into the setting. So here, change of rain, and of course a chance of rain and all the other options, you can select it. And you can also select it to be at what percentage. If you're in an area where typically it'll say like 10 to 20% chance rain, and you know in your area it doesn't really rain enough for it to basically water your lawn, you can set it at a much higher frequency. So essentially you can go up to 40, 50, 60. And once that is triggered, what you'll notice is something like that little video I'm showing you right now, where it'll actually give you a notification on your phone letting you know that it's skipping it based on the percentage. And that's the smart part of it. It uses the weather, it uses the predictions, and it does its job automatically for you. Now, if you live in an area where there is any water restriction requirements, you can also customize them in there. You can see the history of how far it's been using it. As you can see, this goes all the way to November 18th, but you can definitely see here the watering timeline that I have. Coincidentally, you'll notice this little green dots are the dates where my water is actually going to be watering the front yard. Other than that, it does work with Apple HomeKit as well as the Google Assistant and of course the Amazon Alexa system. And I'll get a chance to share that with you guys. Under control, there's the first instant control or instant skip. So if you know this is going to happen and it didn't seem to catch it, or you notice it's starting to rain and your sprinklers did go off, you can turn it on, or you can just do an instant control, just turning it on to test out the system. As far as the yard, those are the two controllers that I have in the front. I have them configured as zone 1 and zone 2. And what I also have here is the ability of customizing the schedule. Now we have three different options. There's the smart one, which you can customize. I prefer to go more of a manual process. So I have it set to be on Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. And I want it to start at 4 a.m. in the morning for 7 minutes each zone. So it does that and it'll skip from one to the other. And you can go in there and customize it to your heart's content. Now, one thing I do want to mention that is a very cool thing that probably not a lot of people will notice is that even though I have those 4 days set at 4 a.m., now I cannot create another program under manual using these two zones to give it, let's say on Tuesday at 4 in the afternoon, I want it to water. I would actually have the ability to jump in here under conditional and we can go in there and customize it. So we can name it program. We'll go ahead and give it here. Next step, and you can actually go in there and enable it and set the actual exception to the rule so that it allows it to actually run on a second time during that same day. And the last thing here, since this system does not include a camera, this option here does not work. If you are going to pick up, let's say the Yardian, the standard Yardian model, this one will actually have a camera function which enables you to actually see it there. So that's one of the other things you want to keep in mind. That system, the Yardian Pro, does not have it, but for the rest of the configuration, almost all of them are pretty much the same. You can see here the water restriction, the weather, and here I have it actually set to chance of rain 60% or higher. So if it's 60 or higher, it won't water my lawn, and it works really, really nicely. When it comes to home automation, this one works very easily. You just have to add it to your existing system. So for me right there, I added it, and I can actually initiate it. I can customize it. I can also go in here and see, I can unlink it. Of course, the name where it's connected to which home address, and of course the name of the unit. And you can actually use the assistant by initiating the command and having it turn on or turn off. And just for reference, this will turn on all of the zones that you have configured under this actual basically controller from Yardian. So this one controls 2 zones in the back. If I say start, it's going to start all of them together. So after using the Yardian Pro for the last 3 months and the standard Yardian for over a year and a half, I have to say that I'm very impressed with the way Yardian does their work. And what I mean by that is the over-the-air updates that they push through come in very easily. They install and they let me know when it's going to happen. If there's going to be a skip day for rain, it tells me exactly what it's going to work. It works great with water restrictions if you're in an area that requires that. Also works great with water prediction in case you do have a situation where you don't want to water the lawn at the same time as it's raining. That's wasting water and of course costing you more money because you're doing it on a time that you don't really need it. The great options here that we have are all working on a smartphone, be it an Android or an iOS device or even your PC. So even if you're traveling, even if you're not at home and you notice that this is going on, you can definitely take care of it. The camera system on the standard Yardian works well, although not the best camera, but works great for security options. And you can customize a few things in there, of course. I'll give you guys a link to the video I did on the standard Yardian not that long ago. But as far as the Yardian Pro, it's small, it's simple to use, simple to set up, and highly customizable. And hopefully you guys found this video very helpful. Thank you very much to Yardian for providing me this unit to review, and of course providing you guys my experience after using it for some time. Like and subscribe as usual. Thank you very much for the support, and I'll see you guys in the next video.